and welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety podcast of doofmedia.com. My name is Scott Daly, and I'm the conceited and arrogant podcaster.
And I'm Matt Freeman, and I'm the squirrely and dumb podcaster.
We may disagree on things, but by the end of this week's show, we'll have really bonded.
Like string.
Sure, Matt. Sure. This week on the show, we are finally beginning our newest in our Deconstructing Directors series, where we will take a look at the works of the director, Gore Verbinski. This week, we'll be covering Gore Verbinski's very first film, the 1997 family comedy, Mousehunt.
Indeed.
Then we'll be discussing the results of last week's Doof Cannon vote and finishing off the episode with some Oscar predictions, where I will attempt to predict what's going to happen this Sunday, because the Oscars are this Sunday, and you probably didn't know that, and that's something I want to talk about as well.
Fascinating. You're usually pretty good at this, so people should pay attention to Scott's picks.
I don't know if we want to build me up that much. I'm a solid C on my picks.
Are you?
Usually, yeah.
Huh. Okay, well, we do keep track of this, so people can check.
It's going to be a fun episode, though. But first, we got to start with Gore. We got to start with our boy Verbinski.
All right.
Because this is it. We're in a new series. It's going to be a 10-part series, and it begins right here, right now. Matt, do you want to learn a little bit about Gore Verbinski?
I really, really do, actually.
All right. Well, his name is Gregor Verbinski.
Okay.
Was born in 1964 in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. He was one of 5 children. He was the middle child of 5 children. His father was a nuclear physicist of Polish descent. Verbinski went to the UCLA Film School, which is, I think number 3 on the top 3 film schools in the country. So very, very good film school. And he actually started his career as a musician. He was in like 6 different bands in LA over the course of the early part of his career.
Very cool.
Yeah. He also worked in commercials very early on. Fun fact, Matt. You know a little commercial called Budweiser? That's Gore Verbinski.
I do. That was a classic. That was
the frogs.
Yeah, I mean
that's him.
That was only the first time that he would put his imprint on popular consciousness.
Gore's first film was a short named The Ritual, which we will not be covering on this series because I don't know how to get a hold of it. But since then, he's directed 10 feature films, 3 of which he's written. So Matt, another one of our directors that is not a writer-director, with the exception of his most recent films, he's all written.
Okay, well, that'll be interesting when we get to those then.
Definitely. His directorial debut was today's film, 1997's Mousehunt. Gore Verbinski films have grossed billions of dollars, including the incredibly successful Pirates franchise, and he's taken home 1 Academy Award for his work on Rango, a movie that you and I have already talked about, but I'm very excited to get to talk about again within the perspective of this whole project.
Indeed, me too.
Verbinski tends to go big in all of his films, even when they're small, even when they have a tiny little mouse in them. He goes big. His movies are loud, they're boisterous, they're exciting, they're huge, they're over the top, and they're usually really, really good.
Yeah.
So I think we need to keep that in mind as we go through these movies. I think that's something we're definitely going to see, and something we definitely see here in his very first film.
Absolutely. It's already been fun watching this first film with the mentality that I'm thinking about the director specifically.
Yeah.
Because you notice like you just said, all of these things that are really rather characteristic of what I have come to think of as Verbinski's strengths.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into.
I think all you need to know about Gore Verbinski is that his name is Gregor, and instead of being called Greg, he said, no, I don't want to be Greg.
Yeah.
I want to be Gore.
I'm Gore.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's fucking metal as hell.
Yeah. You're going to have to call me Thew for the rest of this podcast, actually.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not Matt anymore. I'm Thew.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hate it. All right, Matt, let's go ahead and get into Gregor Verbinski's very first feature-length film. Let's talk about Mousehunt.
The Smuntz brothers have inherited their father's old house.
Sorry, Pop. I'm sorry.
Fixing it up could bring them a fortune.
We can make 800,000 easy.
Smart.
Our future is staring us in the face, and all we have to do is grab it, baste it, and scarf it down.
There's just one small problem.
Hello.
Matt, what is Mousehunt all about?
Mousehunt is about 2 stumblebum inheritors are determined to rid their antique house of a mouse who is equally determined to stay where he is.
This movie was written by Adam Rifkin, who also wrote the 1998 film Small Soldiers. You remember that one? With the toys that come to life?
I do. I remember really liking it when I was a kid, but I don't actually think it was good.
No, but the toys are really cool. I had like 12 of them.
Yeah, but this movie is really good, though. So, yeah.
This movie stars Nathan Lane, Lee Evans, and a parade, a rogues gallery of like some of the best comedic character actors that have ever existed. Just show up in this movie like they're coming off an assembly line. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Matt, what did you think of Mousehunt?
I love this movie. I've always loved this movie. I think I saw it soon after it first came out. Let's see, I would have been 12. And so I would like, I was not a small child, but I was a kid, and I appreciated it because I was like, this is very funny. Like you think of a 12-year-old maybe thinking they're too cool for something like this, but it was obvious to me that it was just like actually very good and very funny and very like solid slapstick and well made. And it wasn't until I was older and then like showing it to my own kids, which of course I did because I remembered how good it was, that I realized that it's great actually. Like I had liked it before, but now I realize like, oh, this is just really well put together movie. This is firing on all cylinders. This has everything I love about movies actually. So I love this movie.
That's really fun.
How about you?
Yeah. So I had seen this movie before, but hilariously enough, I did not remember that I had seen this movie before until the very end, until the ball of string cheese plops down on the assembly line in the factory. I go, oh yeah, string cheese. I have seen this movie before. And I think that's because in this genre of like animal outsmart stupid humans, there's like 50 movies, right? There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so I just like none of the individual parts really brought a memory of watching this movie back. However, I think I'm ready to declare this like one of, if not the best of that particular genre of film.
Sure. Well, I think mostly it's not a good genre, actually.
No, it's a terrible genre.
But this is such a good movie. And like really, honestly, it's not that much about the mouse. Like it's really about the two brothers. And that's, I think, where I maybe want to start the conversation, especially in context of talking about Verbinski and his strengths, is he has such a great understanding of character and drama and like timing and the flow of emotions, both within a scene and between scenes. And, you know, the beginning of the movie is this great setup of these two brother characters who, like, both of them are just such doofuses and idiots, but in very different ways. And like, but like you kind of like them just because they like, I don't know, that's part of the magic of it actually, is like, why do you like these guys? Because they're both so dumb in different ways, but they both have something likable about them. I think that's what it is.
I think the opening of the movie is near perfect. The first scene of the movie, it opens on a stormy day in front of a church. It's the funeral of their father, and they're walking down the steps, arguing with each other while they're
carrying his coffin.
They're carrying their father's coffin, and they're bickering back and forth. And that's such a great way of establishing them. And I think Nathan Lane's character is immediately seen as the one who was like had a much more complicated relationship with their father than Lars did, than Lee Evans' character. It's very clear, like just from that scene, that Lars is like the daddy's boy, and Ernie was kind of like the black sheep of the family. Right. Because Lars is the one that worked in the factory. Ernie's the one that went off to become a fake French chef. But and that just like that the power of that opening image of just like seeing two men bicker about nothing while carrying the corpse of their father, and then of course it results in a slapstick episode where the coffin handle breaks and the coffin slides down the stairs. The body of their dad is launched comically launched into the air. And that's the wild thing about this movie, is like in that scene, it kind of encompasses what the entire movie does, which is this real interesting mixture of actual genuine emotion and darkness.
Yes.
And absurd slapstick nonsense.
Right. I I mean, another bit there that jumps out to me, or that jumped out to me, especially on this viewing, was like, okay, so the mouse has basically tortured Christopher Walken into insanity.
Yes.
Like he tortured him and locked him in a chest somehow. and like, what's funny, I've watched this movie so many times, and this is the first time that I actually thought, like, so how'd the mouse get him in the chest?
They don't explain it.
They don't explain it. And what's funny is I've never wondered that before, which I think tells you the movie is just working because you're just sort of in this fantasy world where the mouse is like borderline supernatural. And you're just like, yeah, why not? Of course the mouse could get a guy into a chest. He can do all these other things. But yeah, like the mouse doesn't even come into the movie for, I don't know. I didn't count actually, but it feels like 45 minutes or something.
I think it was about half an hour.
Yeah.
And like they kind of slow roll the intelligence of the mouse because when we first meet him, he's just a mouse.
Right.
And then it's only like, it's really, I think the halfway point in the movie where it finally goes, okay, let's see things from the mouse's perspective for the first time. That scene where we see him, walk into his bedroom, climb into his bed and go under his tissue, bedroll and like has this whole decorated room. It's an amazing turn. And I think one of the things the movie does really well, and actually I was reading other reviews of this and other reviewers did not agree with this. Like Ebert hates this movie.
That's shocking.
And one of the reasons was he's like, the movie can't decide whether it wants you to root for the mouse or for the two guys. And I agree with that sentiment, but I think that's why the movie's fun.
Yeah.
Because I think the mouse is definitely like the innocent party in this whole thing. But like you also kind of want to see Ernie and Lars like succeed. You want them to win because you feel bad for them in a lot of ways.
But also it's fun to laugh at them because they so obviously deserve like they both have such character flaws.
Yes.
And they deserve to be punished for them. But they also have positive qualities and you want to see them rewarded for those. What you want to see is you want to see them grow.
Yeah.
You want to see them grow past their pettiness. They each have individual flaws that are different. You want to see each character grow past his own individual flaws, the like arrogance and self-importance on the one hand, and the like weakness and cowardice on the other, and grow together. And mainly you want to see their relationship work. And that's what you get to see. And by the way, they lose.
Yeah.
And that enables their relationship to work. Right? Like that's the beauty of the movie actually, is the mouse wins sort of because the house is destroyed and that's where the mouse lived. So that wasn't ideal for the mouse either, actually.
I think he gets a better deal out of the whole thing.
In the end, well, yeah, in the end, everyone wins is the beauty though. Like you're rooting for both of them and they all win. The mouse wins and the brothers win because they come together, the three of them in a sense, and bring their different strengths to the enterprise. And they have a better life than they would have otherwise. And that's the beautiful, arc of the film.
And I think, the most amazing thing about the mouse in this story is he doesn't actually do anything. Like the thing I realized watching this movie was like, it's not like the mouse is being actively antagonistic to them.
Yeah.
They're doing it. Like the reason why they lose in the end is not because the mouse stopped them from doing anything. The mouse literally was just standing there on the lectern and he decided to hit it with the hammer.
Yeah.
He's the one that grabbed the hose and decided to plug it into the mouse hole. The mouse wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
He's just hanging out. It's not like the mouse is like, this isn't Tom and Jerry where Jerry's like actively like antagonizing Tom constantly.
Right.
It's really just hanging out, enjoying some food and living its life. And they continually engage with the mouse and he just defends himself.
Yeah, right. Their character flaws is their pride and their greed, basically. I mean, it's in microcosm, because they keep getting, like they're offered $10 million for the house, 2 different times, basically. And they're like, no, we're gonna keep risking it. We think we deserve more, basically. They keep never being satisfied with what they have is the way of saying that. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing too, because like I think that's such a well done scene, because you have this moment, they're talking to different people. They find out that their house is this ratty, terrible house that their father gave them is actually worth a shit ton of money. It's like the missing house of this world famous architect. And so they have a bunch of people coming over, appraising it. And the person who's talking to them is saying like, I think it could go for like 6 or more than 6. And their assumption is he's talking about hundreds of thousands.
Right.
But he's talking millions, and they don't even realize that. And so, yeah, you see how incredible their greed is immediately, because they are, the numbers that they're thinking they're going to get are like a whole order of magnitude lower than the numbers they actually can get. And it's still not enough. And I think like Verbinski does this really wonderful thing. And I wrote it. We were talking about before we started that I wrote a note down in my notes that I could not read. This is what I was talking about, because there's a scene where the one collector of these houses say, I've never paid more than $10 million. And Verbinski does this thing where they're standing in front of the door and he just holds on them for like 10 seconds. Yeah. It's an incredibly obnoxious long amount of time.
Yeah.
And it really nails just how absurd a number we're talking about here, but they can't stop. They can't help it. They can't say, hey, $10 million, we're broke. That's pretty good. That's enough for you to get your restaurant back. That's enough for you to figure out what you want to do. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's their greed, and the mouse isn't doing anything. The mouse is just hanging out.
Yeah. Right. Their greed and fundamentally dissatisfaction with like who they are and where they are in the world.
Yeah.
And what the mouse does is it allows them to accept what they have, which is a string factory. They don't even have the house anymore at the end. They just have the string factory, which is what they started the movie with. But now they appreciate it and they make something of it.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. It's such a good arc.
Is the mouse their dad?
The mouse is probably, I don't know. That never occurred to me. I like how the dad is basically a character in the movie because you keep cutting to the painting and the painting changes slightly every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is such a great, for some reason that strikes me as a Verbinski thing to do.
Sure. I mean, I want to talk to you about something that I'm going to declare here in movie 1 as the most Verbinski shot in the world. It's in that opening scene we were talking about.
Okay.
When they're carrying the coffin down the stairs, the thing breaks, the coffin goes sliding down the stairs, it eventually hits the car, and the body goes flying into the sewer in this really comedic scene. Verbinski does this thing in that moment where he cuts into the coffin, and we get this like couple second long shot of the corpse of their father in the coffin as it slides down the stairs. Why did he do this? We didn't need to know there was a body in there because we're about to find out. We don't know what this, like, it's not that we need to know what this man looks like because we're going to see him like 30 more times in the movie. We're going to see a whole scene where he's on his deathbed, like giving his lucky string to his children. This is just a Verbinski thing because it's just kind of kooky and
morbid.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just like that was totally unnecessary, and yet I fucking loved it. And I just feel like I immediately saw that moment and was like, oh, that's Verbinski. Like I got to pay attention to that because I think we're going to see more shots like that like on first brush feel narratively unnecessary, but add something to the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's wild.
So another thing that reminds me of, I know that we're jumping around, but I think
no, it's fine.
I think especially on like a first episode of a deconstructing series, that's going to happen as you try to sort of plot out the nodes by which you're going to understand this director. But but like that sequence is a great, I think action sequence is a fine word for it, where it's like, you know, a sequence of physical events occur and the cuts are showing what you need to know to understand the physicality of the moment and also the drama of the moment, because you get the reactions from the brothers intercut with this, you know, really quite a number of cuts of showing the coffin sliding, the coffin going across the street. You're seeing it end, then it cuts, you're seeing it end on, then it hits the car, and I think you're seeing it from the top there, and then it flips over, and then you see the body go up, and then you're looking at the church from across the street, and then you see the body go down into the manhole. So like you've changed angles and orientations like 6 times. I may have gotten some details wrong there, but
I think you're
did a pretty
mostly
good
right.
job. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the finishing touch that makes it a comedic moment is actually that the body, it doesn't move realistically,
Yeah.
and then it disappears from frame and then re-enters frame. You know, like it flies out of the top of the frame,
Right.
and then you're right. We cut to that scene where we're like looking at the two guys sitting by the sewer at the church in the background, and then it re-enters the frame to fall down into the manhole, and that makes it funny.
And it goes thump.
Yeah.
Which is great. Speaking of the soundtrack was Alan Silvestri, who has done the music to everything ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I didn't know actually, but it makes perfect sense now that I realize it. So the action, and then like even other scenes where this is, you wouldn't call this action, but it really struck me this time. The scene where Ernie has just told his wife that he is not selling the factory, I guess. I don't remember the exact context of the conversation, but she's freaking out and she's throwing plates at him. And then so like I can't describe the cuts quite as well here, but it's like a perfect, it reminds me of like a stage play where there's like back and forth and cutting and action and moving and turning dramatically toward the camera and throwing things, and then she like turns violently and then it cuts, and then she violently slams her suitcase down on the bed, and it's like this match of like the violence of the motion. There's just something about that scene where the way that he shoots it and the way that he cuts it makes it feel very like propulsive and like fun and exciting and funny. Sure. Even though the content is a marital argument, which is kind of the most boring thing in the world. But like, and if it weren't boring, it would be like sad and tense. But he does it in a way where it's actually funny, and I just find it remarkable that he's able to control the tone that amazingly well, using really just like the editing and I guess also the performances. But I don't know how he does that, and that's one of my favorite things about him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and I think we need to pay attention to the, like, obviously he's a huge action director, right? A lot of these movies we're going to be talking about are very action driven movies, but so I want to pay attention to the ways in which he tells narrative story through the action. And I mean, the big one I'm thinking of, the big one that's popping into my head right now is the first duel in Pirates of the Caribbean, where our two main characters duel each other in the blacksmith shop for the first time. And that is like a clinic in both engaging action and storytelling. Yeah. And I think you see traces of that here. I think you do. The way the action is choreographed, the way it's, the scene that really sticks out to me is the mousetrap scene where they lay the entire floor with mousetraps. It's just so huge. It's just like, you can imagine a version of the script that just said, and then they put mousetraps all over the floor. And like, I don't think any other director would have visualized it in the way Verbinski did, which is he put it in the kitchen and he made the kitchen humongous. It's a huge room in this house that these traps are in. And he does this amazing thing where like we start with, he lays the one trap by the hole and we see like two more nearby it. And Lars comments to Ernie, don't you think this is being a little excessive? And then he does this slow pullback, this low to the ground pullback. We're at like the mouse's perspective, but he's not in the scene. So we're just like mouse eye level, whatever. And it's just hundreds of traps, an absurd amount of traps. Like, I wonder how, if obviously them all going off was probably digital in some way, but I wonder if there's a version of the scene in which there are like 300 mouse traps on the floor, and if some poor PA had to like spend 4 hours like setting up each and every one of these traps, like placing them gingerly, and then Verbinski comes in and says, no, you have to move that one a little bit to the left, something ridiculous, you know? It's just so big and over the top and wonderful.
Yes. Right. I mean, exactly. The movie, I think, works because of the willingness to go all out in these ways. Like when they shoot the bug bomb in the floor, like the comedy, like you know what's going, like on some level your brain knows what's going to happen. Like, the bug bomb is going to explode. What you don't expect is like this incredible fireball just like detonate the entire floor of the entire foyer. Like it's always like you kind of know what's going to happen, and then when the beat lands, it's like way more than, he lights the match and the gas lights on fire, and it's not just an explosion. It launches him up through the chimney and then out, and then flies hundreds of feet and goes through the ice. And then falls down into the tub, right? Which is like, it's like Looney Tunes, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cartoon.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing about this movie is it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
But I think the movie, like, because we're looking at real people, we kind of actively resist that classification.
Right.
And then something absurd happens that reminds us it's a cartoon. And I think what it does there is it always makes the thing feel unexpectedly bigger and more wild than you thought it would be.
Yeah.
Like, because you're constantly like, well, this is real world. Like, the house is lit and like decorated in a very kind of drab, cold, discomforting kind of way. And I think that kind of makes the color and the cartoonishness like fade away from your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Until something happens, until a match is lit and there's a huge explosion, until Christopher Walken is dragged down the stairs and like just totally destroys the house.
The Christopher Walken part is the best because, as usual, he plays it completely straight.
Oh my God.
Which is the way that you do that character.
Yes, 100%.
The little sound he makes when he realizes that the mouse is turning on the winch. It's just this like nonverbal, like and it just kills me. Everything about that part of the movie. And like, the fact that he's the only one who seems to appreciate that the mouse is going to be formidable.
Yeah.
And they take him as being insane, but he's actually correct.
Yeah. He's the only one that understands.
Yeah.
And lest us forget that the mouse is the one that called 911 to help him.
Yeah. The mouse took pity on him. Exactly.
And it's so wild to me that these are things that the movie does not like. It just allows it to be background, right?
Yeah.
Like, you think a different director, especially someone as big and over the top as Verbinski tends to be, would want to call attention to these things, would want to call attention to the fact that being locked in a chest is a callback to a throwaway line at the beginning of the movie. Is like,
right.
The previous owner was found locked in a chest in the attic.
Right.
Would want to like draw more attention to the fact that it's clearly the mouse that called 911. But Verbinski just lets these moments come and go. And he doesn't like stop the movie to go like,
Yeah.
There, you get it. And I think that's so, the patience there, I think, is what makes those moments land even more for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as far as I can recall, there's no moment where the mouse behaves in any way other than the way a mouse would, really.
No. The most human thing that the mouse does is do the Jim from The Office look at the camera, like, constantly.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's just like, I mean, it's not even like, it's not like he's winking at the camera. He's just looking at, like, the scene where Christopher Walken is climbing under the table and like eats the mouse poop and is like, oh, calcium deficiency. And then the camera slowly pans up to the mouse on the table above him. And he just looks in the camera like, this guy.
Oh God. I mean, yes, the mouse. The one connection I made this time that I don't think I've ever made before was to Home Alone. Mm-hmm. There's a particular scene where the one Nathan Lane has been shot out of the roof, and he's walking back into the house, and Ernie has been blown up, and they're looking at each other, and they're both silently articulating the ridiculousness of the situation using hand gestures and being like, and that's just like that scene in Home Alone where the two crooks are looking at each other and how torn up they are. And I realized,
why the hell you take your shoes off?
Yeah.
Why the hell you dress like a chicken?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, I don't know if it's like an intentional reference, but it definitely reminds you. And it's like in that movie, those two guys are monsters, and you're just enjoying their pain.
Yeah.
So I can kind of even see how you might think like, well, this is a problem because you're not just supposed to be enjoying their pain. You're supposed to be rooting for them too. And I'm like, I mean, we already kind of talked about this, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just sorry, Roger. You're a better critic than I will ever be, but I think you're just wrong here. That like that's why the movie's fun is that you're both rooting for and against them. And I think you're right. You're not rooting for them to succeed. You're rooting for them to learn a lesson.
Right. Yes.
And they do. Hooray.
Yes. So Nathan Lane is great.
Oh God, he's phenomenal.
I don't know if I want to say he makes the movie, because the movie I think would have been great, almost whoever was in that role. But like with him in that role, it's just soaring, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we have to give just credit to casting there, and I
Yeah.
know, like, obviously Verbinski has a casting director that he worked with on this movie, but you know, if we're gonna pretend that the auteur theory is a real thing, then we have to give casting credit to the director, who's like the final say on these things, and it's just the perfect person for the role. I think both these characters are the perfect person for the role.
Yeah.
I mean, Lee Evans is not a actor that you see much anymore, but man, in the 90s he was doing a lot of things. Like there's something about Mary, The Fifth Element. He was all over the place playing these squirrely loser characters.
Right. I mean, Nathan Lane gets to have like the bigger performance here, and so he's the one that you notice, obviously. So but yes, he it only works if he has a good straight man to play off of, which Lee Evans does there. I mean, you're exactly right that he has a casting director, but I mean, if we are going to talk about him as a director and so forth, I think it is worth pointing out that like this guy does have a track record of like not of I'm just going to say it, Jack Sparrow. Like he created, you know, the Pirates movies, which have like this incredibly iconic character, and he has to have some responsibility for that.
Oh, sure.
Some degree of hand in that. So he clearly understands what goes into like making it work. And I think we're seeing the beginnings of that here with his first feature length film. Where
I think you're totally right.
Yeah.
I want to talk for a minute about the opening, just a little bit. Not the opening scene, but like the movie opens with a quote, right? The movie opens with a quote that is, "A world without string is chaos." And most movies or books or things that open with quotes, they're real quotes from like people outside the movie, but this is just a quote from the father in the movie. And I'm just kind of trying to imagine sitting down to a movie called Mousehunt, and it opens with a quote about string, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on in this movie? And like the whole opening of the movie is like, we see the string factory and we kind of see it do its stuff and then mess up and break down, and you're just like, the whole time you're just like, what the fuck does any of this have to do with string? But I do think the movie comes around to the metaphor of string pretty well with the whole lucky. I mean, string is two strands tied together, right? And that's the whole thing, is these two characters coming together, combining to make something better and stronger, which of course is string cheese. But I just like, it's such an interesting like back door into the metaphor, because you don't understand it for the first maybe 30 minutes until you get to that flashback scene. You're like, okay, I get what you're doing. But the whole time you're just like, isn't this a movie where they like chase a mouse around? What the fuck are we talking about string for?
The string is the through line, right?
Yeah.
That's I don't know what to. It's one of the things that stands out about this movie, is that it's like, for lack of a better word, a good movie. Like, because it has the themes and the characters and the plot and the story and the setting and everything tie together. They're all of a piece. There's the string factory, the metaphor of the string, the metaphor tied to the two brothers and the fact that they need to combine and understand each other and take advantage of each other's strengths, and et cetera, et cetera. Like this is good storytelling. This is good fundamentals. I wish I had a word for like when a story does all of the fundamentals correctly, instead of just saying like it's a good story and then listing off all those things I just said.
Yeah.
But yes, extremely solid fundamentals, which I think is generally true of almost every Verbinski film. I think there are some where I don't know if that's true, but maybe we'll get there, and I might be surprised.
Sure.
But,
I mean, I think one thing that's certainly true is that the other 49 animal outsmart stupid human movies do not do something like that. It's like that their version of this movie would have just cut the string factory stuff out entirely. It would have just been a story about two guys inherit a house, they want to sell the house, and the mouse is getting in the way of that, and that's the whole movie. Like this, you could very easily see a version of this film that is just that you can just cut out all that other stuff, but it's core to what the movie is and what the movie's doing, and I think it understands that, and Verbinski understands that, and so he gives it its time and place, and we keep going back to that string factory.
Yeah.
And we we tell the workers that they're gonna have to forego their paychecks for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they come with them with pitchforks. Okay, one of my favorite comedy beats, again, something I never noticed when I was younger but thought was hilarious this time, was like the rival string company guys are like totally cast as like mobsters.
Yeah.
Like they have the wise talking New Yorker accent. They're dressed like mobsters. There's like two of them in the like the one that, you know, the you know, the intimidating one and the talkative one, right? And it's like, why are we casting them as mobsters? What is the I don't know, it's just like a pointless comedic touch.
I mean, it's because I think you're supposed to feel the seediness and the wrongness of this deal.
Yes.
That this is bad. It's wrong. I mean, the fact that they pay in a briefcase of cash for like no reason, like in your head, you're like, it's just a front, right? Like but I mean,
sure,
that's not exactly what they were going for. It's just a comedic. I don't think they were going to buy the string factory and turn it into a front for the mob.
No,
but like, I think that's in your head somewhere as you watch this thing play out this way.
I think that's it's the whole subliminal communication thing where you're just, the whole scene, you're supposed to be like, no, don't take the deal. Don't take the deal. Like, even though it's objectively an incredibly good deal and you know Nathan Lane would take the deal.
Yeah, and tries to later in the movie.
Yeah,
foiled by a rogue hat and some Danish hair models.
Yeah, which then come into the film later.
Yeah, with the fucking spool of string. Like the moment. This movie's so funny. Like the moment where Lars like sees the woman with the string spool haircut and is like immediately in love with her is just amazing.
Yeah,
like. That's just hilarious.
Yeah.
That's just really funny.
It's so good. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's very good. It's very funny. It's very well done. I think it's underappreciated. It's one of those movies that I like. If my kids want to watch it, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'll watch that.
Oh yeah.
Nowhere close to getting tired of this movie.
No, I mean, and I look forward to getting to show it to my kid because I think he's gonna love it.
Yeah,
when he's able to. Like, it's just fun.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, like, I find myself when I'm watching certain movies with my kids, and they're like, I'll be watching this movie with them, and like they're appreciating it as a slapstick like live action cartoon, basically, and I'll say, like, I'll like point out verbally like what's happening on the character level. Because I'm like, I just want you to appreciate this, because it's not just slapstick, you know. And I don't even know if they're paying attention to me, but I'm like, it's really good. Did you notice that, guys? No. Okay.
Did you notice when Nathan Lane said Hakuna Matata?
I did.
Come on, guys.
Yeah,
that's got to be a on day of filming decision.
Ad-lib. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So good.
It's totally the kind of thing that his character would do, because he's an asshole, basically.
Yeah, a total asshole. Yeah. Deserves everything that he gets.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading here that this was William Hickey's last role, who played Rudolph Smuntz, their father. This was his last role ever. So it makes the death scene even a little more morbid, actually.
Yeah, it does. It's, I mean, like there's a lot that's morbid about it. Like
Sure.
when he, you know, they're in their father's room as he's dying, and their father is, you know, trying to have a heart to heart with him, and Nathan Lane,
he's such an asshole,
mutters, maybe turn up the morphine a little. It's like, I mean, that's hilarious, but it's like the darkest humor ever.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? Maybe we should spend a little more time on his character, because I think there is a danger here of making him so unlikable that the movie collapses.
Yeah.
But I think the movie does a really interesting thing where it's actually not his fault that his incredibly successful restaurant is closed down, you know?
Right.
Like, it's not like he was doing a bad job.
No.
He was like slacking on health code stuff or not paying enough attention, or so conceited that he didn't bother with any of that. It's just bad luck. Well, it's like that the cockroach was in the
cigar
box of Cubans that his dad gave him.
Right. Which, I mean, if you take the idea that this is all some sort of, like, you know, divine intervention from their dad,
Right.
then you could even say the dad like engineered this, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily want to go that far, but yeah, the cigar box was from the dad, and there was a roach in it, and yeah, none of that was his fault.
No.
But
and then like I swear to God, this is the level this movie operates on. The mayor dies the night before his re-election campaign, and that same night, the younger brother is going to a diner to get some food, and his brother is working as the chef there because it literally says on the news, it's like tragic news today as the mayor dies. And so he's already gotten a new job at this hole in the wall diner. It's hilarious.
It's so good.
And he spells Merry Christmas with capers on his cheese sandwich.
Yeah, that's one thing, yet again, things that I only appreciate after the 100th viewing is like the sandwich is the most beautiful, like perfectly architectured thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, once again, the importance here is he's actually a very good chef.
Right.
He's not like bad at his job. He's very good at his job. It's just that he needs to learn to work. Like he needs to learn that he needs to combine this with his brother to really get the fulfillment that he wants in his life.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, it seems like he was chasing an empty goal, right?
Yeah, it was all about, because his father rejected this side of him.
Exactly. He wanted he wanted adulation because he felt like he was underappreciated. But that wasn't going to ever make him happy.
Yep. And so the only way is to tear it all down.
Yeah.
And for that, you need a cockroach and a mouse.
Yeah. Need to kill the mayor. Need to drive the exterminator insane.
I mean,
what happened to that cat, by the way?
I think it's fine. Catzilla. I think it's fine.
I don't remember what happens to the cat, honestly.
I don't think they show. I think it's just like we assume he's defeated. And like nothing dies in this movie except for their father
and the mayor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like that's not even Nathan Lane's fault either. If the guy just came from a triple bypass and is like, let's go eat a whole bunch of food.
Yeah, just came from the hospital to go have a giant lobster. Yeah.
Yep. Good call, dude. I guess let's talk about the visuals a little bit, the visual effects, because I think this movie does a combination of things, right? It has CG in places. It has animatronics in places. I think all the close-up work of the mouse is animatronics, and then it uses real mice and rats in some places. I think the only place that I could see the holes in the special effects is actually the cockroach, which was CG and didn't look great.
Yeah, it didn't look great, mainly due to the texture, I would say. And then the other place that stood out to me this time was when the cat punches its arms out the sides of the box, which is funny because, like, thinking about it, I'm like, I bet they knew they couldn't do a CGI full cat to do what they needed it to do, so they did this box trick, which still doesn't look great, but honestly, it's fine. Like didn't take me out of the movie really. It's
absolutely fine. I mean, it looks like, I think the cat just looks like a cartoon, which is fine because this is a cartoon. It's the cockroach just looks bad, and that was the only time I said, the 90s. But other than that, I mean, the animatronic stuff works great. The mouse looks great.
The shot where the cat busts out of the box and you get this incredibly low angle on the cat, showing it being gigantic and terrifying and roaring. It's so good.
It's so good, especially after just watching Godzilla versus Kong. I mean, that is literally just, they probably just took a shot from Godzilla and Verbinski recreated it, but with a cat. It's so wonderful. The attention to detail and the care in what is normally just a stupid throwaway type movie, I think, is remarkable. And this is a really interesting place to start, right? Because like with the other directors we covered, like with the Wachowskis and with Shyamalan, these first movies are usually like very intimate, small, personal projects. Like Bound is such a Wachowski movie, but it is such a personal movie to them.
3 characters.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I mean, this is it's Verbinski can't do small. I think it's something we're going to see. Like even this movie, which is a few characters, it's huge. And like the next movie we're going to be covering is The Mexican, which is like meant to be a small, tiny movie. And then they cast Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts in it. And it's like, welp, there goes that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a really interesting first, note of who this guy's going to be and what his career is going to be, in that we take this movie that's a couple guys versus a mouse, but we cast Nathan Lane in it, so it's going to be big. We film it huge. We film it like this house is massive and intricate, and I wonder like how much of this house, they must have built almost all of this house, because there's so many different rooms we go into.
Yeah,
it's such an expansive set. It really feels its size.
I mean, the budget of the movie was $38 million,
which is pretty high for 97.
It's pretty high. I imagine a lot of that is Christopher Walken, etc. But also I can buy there's a lot of special effects. I mean, God, not only do you have to build the set, but you have to build the set like 5 times, because you got to have the staircase made to be destroyed as Christopher Walken is dragged through it, which is probably its own piece of set work somewhere, probably not even in the actual house set. There's probably multiple house sets actually, and they probably built, I mean, God, yeah, they probably built a ton of sets because they had to destroy so much of it. Shooting holes in things constantly, and then blowing up bags of feces, and then okay, well, now we have to either clean that up or we just have to not use that set anymore, right? Not that they were using feces, obviously, but
no.
It's I can see where the money came in. A lot of it being fairly elaborate effects shots.
Yeah. All right. So anything else you have to say about this movie?
I don't think so. If you haven't seen this movie, it's very fun.
It's very fun.
It's a feel good movie. It's a fun movie. It's a well made movie. I'll never pass up Nathan Lane getting to chew scenery.
God, I love Nathan Lane. He's so great.
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing that I guess one thing I haven't said is it's amazing that this is a first movie, right? You think it it's a very solid, tight, well made, well put together in every way movie. You feel like you're seeing a fully formed director, and he just kind of goes on from here to make a bunch of more good movies.
Totally.
I mean, we're in for a treat.
I'm so excited. Honestly, when I came into this one, I know you were super positive on this movie, but I wasn't sure if I had seen it before. I think I wrote this movie off as just another of that genre, and I wasn't too into it. I was much, when I looked at the filmography of Verbinski, I was more excited about the later films, and I was kind of bummed that we'd had to get through this movie. But no, I don't feel that way at all. It was delightful, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it has me even more excited for the rest of this project now.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons I was so excited to do Verbinski in the first place, is I got to talk about Mousehunt. So
well, there we go.
Yep.
That is Mousehunt. It's available. I think I streamed it. I think it's free on Hulu and Amazon. It's a lot of places if you have those services. So if you haven't watched Mousehunt in a while, watch it again. I think you're in for a good time.
Yeah. Just to reemphasize that, I've seen this movie many times, and yet still notice fun things when I watch it. So
yeah, absolutely
good for rewatch.
I mean, the Nathan Lane one-liners constantly. It's having fun. It's having such a good time.
Yep.
All right, that is Mousehunt. All right, Matt, it's time to talk about the results of last week's episode. Last week, we talked about the 2020 film, The Hunt. You and I had a lot of really, really good things to say about this movie. We really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, but we kind of landed on the side of no, probably not good enough to be in the canon, although you were much more on the fence than I was on that one.
Yeah, I believe I said that I was going to vote no, but I secretly hoped that it won. So.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it did not.
Okay.
This movie did not get enough votes to win, although it still got more than I thought it was. I thought this was going to be a blowout, and while it was a 2-1 swing in the no direction, that's more yeses than I thought. So I noticed in our Discord that a few people revisited this movie. Some people checked it out for the first time after they heard us talk about it and had a delightful time. So that makes me happy. Whether or not it gets into the canon or not, some people got to see this for the first time and really enjoyed it, which is great, because I think it was a lot of fun and is just a fun movie to think about and talk about and have fun with.
Yeah, everybody who who gave us feedback said that they did indeed have fun with the movie. So
Yeah.
good.
Great. All right. So that is The Hunt. If you still haven't seen it, what are you doing? I think even though it's got to know, I think now's the time. Go rent or buy or watch.
You have
The
to
Hunt.
buy it.
Yeah. But you own it now. You have to own it.
After you watch Mousehunt, then go purchase The Hunt.
Yeah. The mouse is gone. The hunt is on. Okay, let's move on. I can't. That was awful. Let's move on.
Do doof.
All right, Matt. This weekend, the Oscars are here. It has been like 13, 14 months since the Academy Awards. It's been a hell of a year, but the Oscars are back and a sign that everything's returning to normal. Except not at all.
Uh-huh.
Because the Oscars have never been less relevant than they are right now. It's incredible. Here's one prediction I will make about Sunday's show that I know is absolutely true. It is going to be the lowest ratings that the Oscars have ever had. It is going to be dreadful. No one is going to watch this thing.
Right, because nobody's seen any of these movies.
No. And it's not that they're not available to be seen. They're available on streaming services, but this thing has been happening over the past decade, and 2020 just accelerated it to crazy levels. Movies are not part of the cultural conversation anymore. Especially last year. Now big like MCU huge blockbuster movies kind of are and can be, but Oscar movies just aren't anymore. They're just not. And I think it's kind of crazy. I think like last year was actually a really good year for movies. I liked a lot of the movies that are nominated, and I'm excited to see people win for the incredible work they did. But if you're a fan of film, you're looking at what's happening right now, and it's not good. It's not a good time for the movies right now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously this year was particularly bad. I'm looking through this list of nominations that you have in the script here, and I have seen a grand total of 2 of the movies that have a nomination for anything.
Honestly, that was more than I thought. So,
well, they're the 2 Pixar movies.
Okay.
So I've seen 0 live action movies. Put it that way.
You've seen none of the Best Picture nominees.
None of the Best Picture. None of the best anything except animated feature. So, and I think I probably stand in for a lot of people. Actually, I mean, I'm somebody who probably watches an unusually high amount of movies.
I think you're actually above the norm.
Yeah. So yeah, nobody's gonna watch this because nobody's seen the movies. But I think maybe to what you were saying a moment ago, it's not just a 2020 thing. It's people just care much less. They're choosing to spend their time in other ways. I think 2020 probably accelerated the trend of like, holy crap, there's a lot of good stuff on streaming actually.
Yeah.
Why don't we just stay home and watch that instead? And that's gonna keep being that way, I think.
Well, I mean, the space for the incredibly popular but like deep, important, and impactful drama that the Oscar movies used to represent has been completely subsumed by TV. Like TV series have just taken that over. Like shows like why am I blanking on the chess show from last year?
Queen's Gambit.
Queen's Gambit. Like if that's a movie, that's an Oscar nominated movie. But it's not a movie. It's a television show now. And so that space has been completely taken over by this. And that's what people are watching. And those are the things that, like, the Emmys were pretty popular because that stuff still matters to people. And like, as good as these movies are, and Nomadland is an incredible movie that I really loved. So many of these nominees, Matt, are such good movies. I loved them. Nobody's seeing them.
Yeah.
Nobody's seeing them. And yeah, it's just like, it makes me sad. It makes me wonder, like, I love TV. You know, I love TV, but I will always have a special place in my heart for the movie, the feature length film. And I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I think we are going to have a rebound once more people have gotten their vaccine. I think people are going to go back to the theaters in droves to like get out of the house. But they're not going to go to the theaters to see Minari, to see Promising Young Woman, to see Sound of Metal. They're going to go to the theaters to see Godzilla versus Kong and Fast 9 and the latest MCU movie. And even so, like, even this rebound that I think is going to happen, I don't think it's going to save this type of movie. And I wonder, like, obviously the streaming services are here for this type of movie and are more than happy to host them. And Netflix is spending $17 billion this year on original content, a lot of which is going to be movies that are eligible for Oscars next year. I don't think culturally we can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how to even begin doing that. How do you get people to pay attention to an incredible movie like Promising Young Woman? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the way that I now hear about these movies rather, is not through trailers anymore. It's through YouTube review shows.
Sure.
I mean, like specifically Half in the Bag, honestly.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is part of my media consumption diet, actually, is the review show itself. So like, it's just, it used to be, there was this enormous, dearth of content, and you would go to the movies and then you'd see trailers and you'd be like, oh, a new blank movie, or just, oh, that's it. I have no idea what that is, but it looks interesting. And then you would keep it in mind, and then you would go see it when it came out. But like, the whole mechanism of how we're even informed and how these things are advertised to us is different now. I do wonder, just as an empirical question of fact, like, how many, if there was some way of measuring how many like high concept dramas come out per year, like, has that number gone up, gone down, remained flat? Like, what? And the reason I ask is, like, just because there's relatively less interest, like, just because now we have Disney Plus, that doesn't mean that like the gross market has shrunk. That just means the relative market has shrunk. But the gross market can be increasing, and the whole pie is getting bigger, and we just have more income to spend on entertaining ourselves. So this is a question. I'm not making an argument. I'm more asking a question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a definitive answer for you there. I think there are more movies being made now than ever before, certainly, because making movies has never been cheaper. The technology is just there to do it cheaper and cheaper than ever.
Right.
The thing that's happening is you either have like micro budget movies or giant hundreds of millions of dollars movies, and you don't have this middle ground film, like your $50 million, your $30 million film. You just don't have that anymore. Those are kind of going by the wayside, and or that space is occupied by TV. Like The Queen's Gambit is probably a show that cost about $40 million probably for that season. Like, that's just that's just a space TV, prestige TV has filled in now. I like, again, like, it's hard to say, like, empirically, is this a bad thing? I don't know, and like, I don't think movies are going to go away. You're absolutely right that they're not just going to be like, well, pack it up, we're done making feature-length films now. No, of course not. But like, as an appreciator of the art form and a person that wants these things to be seen by as many eyes as possible, there is something that makes me sad about the fact that I'm going to read these actresses and actors and film titles, and most of our listeners will maybe have only vaguely heard of these films or not heard of them at all.
Sure. Yeah. I feel you there.
I do think, like an action point for this for me is to just maybe talk about these movies on the show more. And I don't want to like make a whole show subject that's just me talking about movies that no one's seen, but like maybe have a last segment of the show talking about the latest of the small, tiny movies that you or people have never heard of. I kind of makes me kind of want to do that a little bit more.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think we talked on a recent show about how hard it is to sell things to people. And how like the most random weird thing can make you think like, well, that sounds intriguing. Whereas someone's like earnest pitch to sell you on something can just make you go like, none of that sounds appealing to me. And so it might be a fun, I don't know if I'm suggesting this, but it might be a fun challenge to like, I don't know, like even add constraints, like be like, how, like 60 seconds, you have 60 seconds to sell me on this movie. And that, something like that would really force you to strip down to like, what is what is the reason I should see the movie? Like, don't tell me what the movie's about. That's not going to make me go see it. What is the reason I should go see it? Like persuade me, you know? I think that would be an interesting challenge.
Interesting. Yeah.
Even if that's not what we end up doing, I still think that's an interesting idea. Like thinking sort of anatomically about the way to engineer a perfect pitch for a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I will think about this, and maybe that's a challenge that I want to explore. So
Cool.
Maybe we'll come back to that. But for now, let's very quickly talk about some of the biggest awards of the night and who I think is going to win. Maybe this will serve as like a 5-minute pitch for some of these movies.
All right.
So we're going to start with the supporting actress. You want to read the nominees for me?
Sure. Maria Bakalova in Borat's subsequent movie film. Glenn Close in Hillbilly Elegy. Olivia Colman in The Father. Amanda Seyfried in Mank. And Yoo Jung-yoon in Minari.
Okay, so I will say here at the beginning that there are 2 Best Picture movies that I have yet to see, which are both Minari and The Father. Those are movies I really want to see, but they've been like $20 rentals for a while now, and I just don't want to spend that much. So I've been waiting for them to dip into like the $6 rental range, and it just hasn't happened yet. I might just pull the trigger on one of them because I want to see Minari before the Oscars. But so I can't like say what my opinion is, but who I think is going to win this is Yoo Jung-yoon from Minari. She has won multiple awards and given amazing speeches at those award shows, and it just seems like momentum is going her way. She's a very old actress who is like being honored here at the late stages of her career, and apparently just gave an amazing performance in Minari. So I think she's going to take it. Of the ones that I've seen, I really liked Amanda Seyfried in Mank. That's a movie that you and I need to talk about one day when you do like an addendum to our Fincher series to talk about Mank. I think she does a really good job in that movie. But I don't think she's going to win. It's wild to me that Borat is in this category. Although Maria Bakalova does such an amazing job in that movie. Like, she really makes the film. Sacha Baron Cohen like totally steps aside and like gives her the movie, and she's incredible in it. So I get why she's here, but it's just wild to see Borat's subsequent movie film in an Oscar category.
Yeah. No, I'm delighted. Again, haven't seen any of these, so I won't be commenting further. But
yeah, Yoo Jung-yoon in Minari, which is a supposed to be an incredibly powerful performance about a Korean American family who like immigrates here to try to like accomplish the American dream, and it's supposed to be heartwarming and devastating and wonderful, and I really, really want to see it.
Yep.
All right, moving on to supporting actor. This is a weird category, Matt. Read the nominees for me.
Supporting actor: Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial of the Chicago 7. Not for Borat's subsequent movie film.
No, not for Borat's subsequent movie film.
Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah. Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami. Paul Raci for Sound of Metal, and Khalith Stanfield for Judith and the Black Messiah.
So something weird happened here, Matt. So Judas and the Black Messiah, Daniel Kaluuya is the Black Messiah of that. Lakeith Stanfield is the Judas of that. And yet they're both listed as supporting actor, which is wild.
That's weird.
I think if you watch the movie, it's very clear that Lakeith Stanfield is the lead and Daniel Kaluuya is the supporting. I don't know how this happened. It's just a weird thing. Like, with obviously many people voted for both of them in this category, and that's how they got here. But it's just wild to me that like you're basically saying the movie doesn't have a lead actor, which is absurd.
Yeah, right. It's just sort of a sign of what a bizarre awards this is going to be.
Yeah. I do think something interesting could happen here, where because of that weirdness, they end up splitting the vote. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Daniel Kaluuya is going to win for Judas and the Black Messiah, which is a movie I enjoyed. It wasn't my favorite, but he gives a very powerful, amazing performance in that movie. Sacha Baron Cohen could steal, which is wild that could happen, but it could happen. It could happen.
That would be amazing.
It's interesting because I liked Trial of Chicago 7 more than most people, but from what I understand of his performance in that movie, is he's not doing a very good job, like, embodying the character of this real life person. He just, like, that's what everyone's saying, and I unfortunately don't know, too much about Abby Hoffman, and I haven't watched like a lot of Abby Hoffman, so I can't be like, no, this was a terrible job. But that's what people are saying. So it's almost one of those things where they would be giving it to him for like his long career instead of for this particular movie. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, let's move on to lead actress.
Okay. We've got Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andra Day for The United States versus Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand in Nomadland, and Carey Mulligan in Promising Young Woman.
This is the most exciting category of the night.
Okay.
Because every single one of these women have won an award in one of the major award shows leading up to the Oscars. Normally like you can like track who's winning in these other award shows to like see who's the front runner, but they've all won different ones.
Yeah.
Like I think Andra Day took the Golden Globe, Viola Davis won, I think it was the SAG. I think Frances McDormand won the BAFTA. I don't remember all of them exactly, but like this is up in the air, and that makes it really exciting.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a competition between Frances McDormand and Viola Davis, and I think Viola Davis is going to take it. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is a movie based off a play, and it's really good. I think it's on. I think that one's on Hulu or Netflix. No, I think it's Netflix. It's a really, really good movie, and she gives a really powerful performance in it. Vanessa Kirby in Pieces of a Woman, which is a movie also on Netflix. This is a movie. I don't know if I can recommend this movie because like the first 30 minutes of this movie is Vanessa Kirby giving birth, and it's like awful. But she like it's like she's going for it. Like it's if you told me that Vanessa Kirby was actually giving birth in the scene, I would believe you. And I think that's why she's here. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to elevate her to the victory circle, but it's a powerful performance.
Sounds intense.
I thought Carey Mulligan was great in Promising Young Woman. I just don't see it picking up the win here.
Yeah, it's more of like a revenge pseudo horror movie, right?
It's kind of wild that it's here. Yeah, this movie was nominated a lot, and I think it's going to win some stuff. And I think it's really good, but yeah, it's not your typical Oscar bait.
Yeah,
which is an expression I hate. But it's not your typical movie you see nominated here.
It just kind of seems like it's here because it's one of the 5 movies that came out this year.
Touche.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to lead actor.
All right, Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, Gary Oldman for Mank, and Stephen Yeun in Minari.
Okay, well, this is the most boring category of the night. Chadwick Boseman is going to win.
Okay.
Like, I have never been more sure of anything in my entire life. I think it was an Oscar-winning performance before he passed away, and I think just honoring this guy that we tragically lost last year, he's going to win the award.
Okay.
And I'm totally happy with that. It's a really, really, really good performance. Everyone watch Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, please do.
Okay.
But I think you should also watch Sound of Metal, which is, I think, my favorite movie of last year. And Riz Ahmed gives this incredible performance. It's a movie about a drummer who starts losing his hearing and is like dealing with life being deaf, and he gives just this amazing, wonderful, layered performance. He's so good in it. It's such a good movie. Everyone go watch Sound of Metal. It's really, really good.
Cool. That sounds fun.
All right, let's talk about some screenplays.
All right, we've got Borat's subsequent movie film, which is by like 47 people. Which I guess is what happens when you have a film that's like a weird mix of scripted and an ad lib and people who don't know they're actors. Then we've got The Father, written by Christopher Hampton and Florian Zeller. We've got Nomadland, written by Chloe Zhao. One Night in Miami, written by Kemp Powers, and The White Tiger, written by Ramin Barani. Okay,
so I think Chloe Zhao is going to win this award for Nomadland, and well deserved. Again, I'm just happy to see Borat here because you need to watch the Borat movie, Matt. It's really good, actually.
Yeah,
it's really good. It just tickles me that this was here. I haven't seen The Father, can't comment on that. The White Tiger is this really interesting. It's a movie that's on Netflix. It's kind of like an Indian I've seen it described as like an Indian version of Goodfellas in like a really positive way. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Okay.
But I think Nomadland is going to take it here, and well deserved, Chloe Zhao. So
Cool.
that's my pick.
All right. Good deal. Moving
Original
on to
screenplay.
original screenplay, we have Judas and the Black Messiah by Will Burson and Shaka King, and then story by a bunch of other people. Minari by Lee Isaac Chung, Promising Young Woman by Emerald Fennell, Sound of Metal by Darius Abraham Martyr, and Trial of the Chicago 7 by Aaron Sorkin.
All right. I think this is where Promising Young Woman picks up its award.
Okay.
I think they want the Academy wants to honor this movie, but because it's genre, they will not give it a Best Picture nod. They will not give it a directing nod. They will not give it an acting nod. I think where they give it is a writing nod. And I get that. I actually think like it's interesting because I enjoy this movie, but the writing is probably the part of it I enjoy the least. I think that it's the directing and the performances that are really make this movie. But I think that's just the way the Academy works sometimes. And I think Promising Woman is going to win here. Something else that could steal is Aaron Sorkin. The Academy loves Aaron Sorkin. I love Aaron Sorkin. They love awarding Aaron Sorkin. And I could see them giving it to him for Trial of Chicago 7.
Cool.
But we'll see.
All right. Awesome. Next, we have animated feature.
The one that you know something.
The one that I can say something about this category. We have Onward from Pixar, Over the Moon from Netflix, a Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon from Netflix as a candidate for Best Animated Feature of the Year, Soul by Pixar, and Wolfwalkers by Apple TV Plus / G Kids.
Okay, you laugh, but apparently the Shaun the Sheep movies are actually really good. I've never seen them, but apparently they're actually really good.
I'm totally willing to believe that. So I've seen Onward and Soul, which, I guess of the two of them, I guess I liked Onward more, but I mean, Soul is obviously also amazing. You catch me on a different day, I might feel differently. I don't know. Which of these have you seen?
I've seen all of them except for Shaun the Sheep movie.
Okay.
I think Wolfwalkers is the best movie on this list. I do not think it's going to win, however, and I think it's because of this Apple TV stuff. I just don't think enough of the Academy will have seen it. I think if it was as seen as Soul, it would have a chance, but I think Soul is going to win this one.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from it. Soul is a fantastic movie. I loved that movie.
Yeah.
Great movie. Enjoyed the hell out of it. I also really liked Onward. Onward has the distinct pleasure of being the last movie I saw in theaters before the whole world changed. And it's also a movie that like really affected me very emotionally. It's a movie about siblings and like sibling bonding, and I thought it was beautiful. I cried in that movie. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, when I say I liked Onward more than Soul, I mean that in the most basic sense of like I just enjoyed it more. I mean, Soul though is this like spiritual journey that really challenges you and makes you it takes you places.
But Onward is literally hitting you where you live because it's a story about two brothers.
and it's just like it's a rip roaring road trip movie, right? It's fun. So yeah.
Wolfwalkers is amazing. I want more people to watch Wolfwalkers. I understand why they can't. It's because not many people have Apple TV accounts. Apple TV, like people laughed at Apple TV Plus when it came out and continue to laugh at Apple TV Plus. They're like slowly collecting this incredible library of insanely good things. Like they've got Ted Lasso, they've got Wolfwalkers on there now. Like they're just like racking up all this really good both TV and movie stuff. And cool. I still don't know like what their numbers are, but they're doing all right. I mean, they've got the money to blow, so
sure,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I hope they win. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Sounds good to me though. Cool. All right. Next category is Best Director. We have Thomas Vinterberg with Another Round, David Fincher with Mank, Lee Isaac Chung with Minari, Chloe Zhao with Nomadland, and Emerald Fennell with Promising Young Woman.
This is the first time in the history of the Oscars that two women have been nominated for Best Director at the same time.
Cool.
Which is cool. And I think one of them is going to win. I think Chloe Zhao is going to win for Best Director for Nomadland. I think that's going to happen. I've already told you why I don't think Emerald Fennell is going to. Lee Isaac Chung, it could win. I don't know. I can't comment on it because I haven't seen Minari. If they give it to David Fincher, it will be as like a career recognition award. I don't think he would be getting it for Mank itself, which I enjoyed Mank. I think it's probably the weakest of the Best Picture nominees. I think it has a bad script, which is sad for me to say because like David Fincher's father wrote the script, and like that's the reason he made the movie is because his dad wrote the script and he wanted to make this movie that his dad never got to make, and it's just not a great script. It's a good movie, but it's just not great. I don't know. He could come in and steal it. I think Thomas Vinterberg's Another Round is a really fantastic movie. It's a Danish movie about a group of teachers that decide that like to follow this advice that actually the human being is like 0.5 alcohol percentage is too low at all times, and if you just stay like constantly just a little bit drunk, you'll just be better at everything. It's a really touching and very funny movie. I don't think it's going to win though. I think it's going to be Chloe Zhao. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Final category, Best Picture. We have basically all of the same movies you just heard because again, there were 7 movies made this year. The Father. I'm just going to read the names.
Yeah. Just read the names.
The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7.
All right, Nomadland's going to win. I'm pretty sure about this. I think it's definitely the heavy favorite. It's a really, really good movie. For those that don't know, Nomadland is a story about a woman played by Frances McDormand that is a nomad. She lives in a van and drives around the United States, like getting odd jobs and kind of just surviving. And she's doing this by choice. And it's a really interesting movie about grief. And it's an interesting movie about, these people that the people that choose to live this way and the people that haven't chosen to live this way. The way Chloe Zhao makes her movies, she did this with her first movie, The Rider, and with this movie as well, is that she kind of, a lot of the cast is not professional actors. It's just people. So it's like Frances McDormand interacting with real people that live this way. And it's really powerful and beautiful. And I enjoyed the shit out of it. And I think it's on Hulu right now if you want to go watch it. So I think I fully recommend this movie, and I do think it's going to win.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I do think there's been a little bit of a backlash at Nomadland where the takes this last week I've seen have driven me crazy. People have decided that the movie is not mean enough to Amazon because one of the odd jobs that Frances McDormand's character has is she's like a boxer at Amazon. And it's like, I guess the movie didn't specify clearly enough for some people that Amazon is bad. So people are mad at it, which I don't like. First of all, I think the movie is commenting on this way of life and how it's not ideal a lot. I also don't think the movie is about exploring the ways in which Amazon is bad. It's a much more personal movie about this character in particular. So I hate that take.
I'm tired. I'm so tired of this. But, yeah. Okay.
But I don't think that's going to be enough to stop it from winning. The only other crazy thing that I think could happen is The Trial of Chicago 7 could win. I think that's a very old guard Oscar movie. That's some of the older members of the Academy I think would push for that movie a lot.
Yeah.
It's a very traditional Oscar type film.
Okay. Yeah.
Where there's a problem and it's in a courtroom, and then they solve the problem by the end of it, and it's very sharply written because it's Aaron Sorkin, and it makes you feel good about yourself at the end, even if you shouldn't. It just seems like that type of movie. So that could happen.
I mean, knowing very little about these movies other than sort of the rough sketches, it feels to me like, if I subtract away, Scott Daly's assessment of which of these movies is actually best, it does seem like Trial of the Chicago 7 would be more appealing to the sorts of people who vote in the Academy and the sorts of things. Now, I'm obviously it seems like Nomadland is like well ahead of the pack, but the Trial of the Chicago 7 does seem like more the kind of thing that the Academy tends to go for.
And it's interesting because like I think maybe a few years ago, I would be saying Trial of the Chicago 7 or even Mank, which is a movie about Hollywood, and you know how they love those movies.
Right.
I think the Academy is changing, and these are conscious steps that they've taken to be more inclusive and invite newer, younger, more diverse people into the voting body. And we've seen the results of that. I mean, the fact that Parasite won last year was a big, big deal. Yes, that was only a year ago, if you can believe it. The Parasite won the Best Picture award.
Oh, Scott, you and your made up stories.
So, like, I think this is an interesting moment in the Academy. Is there going to be a quote unquote backlash where they kind of adjust the next year by voting in the very safe traditional pick that is Trial of the Chicago 7, which is a good movie. I don't want to take anything away from that movie. Or are they going to go with a pick that maybe they wouldn't have in the past? I mean, just the fact that Promising Young Woman is here and Sound of Metal is here makes me very happy, because I don't think those are movies that we would have seen on this list in the past.
Yeah, very cool. I agree.
So, yeah, so that's my official pick. Nomadland is probably going to win, but we'll see. We'll see on Sunday. I'll be watching. I know none of you out there will be, because I think like 6 people are going to watch the Academy Awards. I'm interested to see how they're going to do it, because they made headlines when they said no Zooms. They said, we're not doing the Zoom thing. No Zooms. And I think this was directly after the Golden Globes, which did Zoom, and it was dreadful. It was terrible. It was awful.
So what, they're gonna not socially distance, or what does that mean?
The thing you have to understand, Matt, is that all of the celebrities are rich and famous, and so they're all vaccinated already.
Okay.
But what they're doing is the only people that are allowed to go to the show are nominees and presenters.
Okay.
That's it. So they're limiting the amount of people that can go. They also they're doing it in a more outdoor place. I think it's in a train station this year in LA. They're also having satellite locations around the world, like in case you can't get out of another country to get to the US because of COVID restrictions, like you can go to a satellite area. But to be honest, most of these people have the vaccine by this point, but no Zooms.
I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how the optics of all these rich people getting in a room together just to congratulate each other.
While half the world still can't leave their house.
And it's not like their risk is non-zero either, but
Oh,
okay. All right.
We'll see.
I'm looking forward to this discourse cycle.
I mean, their announcement that they weren't doing it generated a lot of takes. And then they stuck with it. They tried to explain themselves. I mean, interesting. Steven Soderbergh is the one directing the show, which makes me a little excited, if I'm not going to lie. Like, I think that's an exciting director who's going to try to make something interesting out of this show. So we'll see. I'm excited to watch. No one's going to do it, but we'll see.
All right. Great.
So that's the Oscars. Good luck to people that don't listen to the show.
Yeah. Good luck to these 7 films.
All right, that's all we had for you guys this week. If you have any opinions on Mousehunt, on The Hunt, or on The Hunt for an Academy Award, you can reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or on Twitter @doofmedia.
If you're not already subscribed to the Doofcast, we encourage you to subscribe and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
That's right. You can find this and all of our shows over at doofmedia.com. And if you like what we do here and want to support us, consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. Head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia and look at all the different levels you can donate at. If you donate to the Doof Troop level, which is our $10 a month level, you get access to a suite of bonus podcasts. We got a bunch out there now, including a bonus podcast called The High Ground, in which case Elliot and Ruben and Elliot's sister take a look at some bad movies and some good movies. They take a look at the Star Wars prequels, and they've moved on. This is actually a great tie-in, Matt, because they've moved on to the Pirates movies. So I think this week they released their episode on Pirates 2. So it's going to be a little bit before you and I get to talk about the Pirates movies. But if you're hankering for some Gore Verbinski Pirates movies, you can donate to us on Patreon and listen to those 3 talk about The Curse of the Black Pearl and Dead Man's Chest, which are out now.
That's right. It's all Verbinski all the time on the Doof Network.
Yeah, we are the Gore
media. The Gore cask. Also, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, because every review does help us get more exposure, introduces new people to the content we're making here, and it's cool to see numbers go up. Also, that's another good reason.
Numbers are great. I love them.
Yeah, or down, I guess, because the ranking number. Anyway,
no, I don't. Down's bad. Up good.
It would go down. Like the ranking would go from 15 to 5 or whatever.
Isn't that still considered up though?
I mean, sure, Scott.
All right, folks, we'll see you all next week for another one of our Patreon-produced episodes in which we'll be taking a look at the 2010 Takashi Miike film, 13 Assassins.
Ooh.
We'll see you then.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.